After having recently voted against additional FEMA funding and having spent days signal boosting Donald Trump's lies about the Biden-Harris administration's response to Hurricanes Helene and Milton, MAGA Republican Congresswoman Paulina is now publicly praising President Biden and calling on Republican Speaker Mike Johnson to work with Biden to get additional FEMA funding. You can't write this stuff. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, so this is an interesting story because we've been covering the MAGA Republican response to Hurricane Helene and how they have been openly, transparently lying in order to score cynical political points, potentially at the cost of their own constituents' lives. We've covered it extensively. Paulina is a freshman MAGA Republican Congresswoman, one of the worst in Congress. She's not a household name yet, but she could soon get there. She hates Democrats. She hates Joe Biden. She loves Donald Trump. We're going to give you some examples. I want to give you a taste of what she has done in terms of her response to Hurricane Helene, at least initially, and then we'll get to where she's done a 180. So this was back on October 2nd. She signal boosted the lie that FEMA funding that was meant for natural disaster relief was actually being spent on undocumented migrants. Again, a lie, not even remotely ambiguous, 100% false from MAGA. She says $941 million of FEMA funding went to illegals. It's unacceptable and should be illegal. This could be used to house Pineda's residents. Okay. So she's saying that the FEMA funding that was congressionally appropriated for undocumented migrants actually could have been used for hurricane relief, for natural disaster relief. Again, not true whatsoever. She also, during a recent town hall that she hosted for Donald Trump, her cult leader, signal boosted his lies that the Biden-Harris administration was deliberately withholding aid from red states, red counties, red areas that would otherwise vote Republican.
Mr. President, to follow up on that, because the media is here, I do believe that they've intentionally, and this is my opinion, not helped out those residents because it's red communities that are impacted. Let's call a spade a spade. Do your job and do better.
So again, she had no evidence of that whatsoever. She was just knowingly signal boosting Donald Trump's lies. Extremely pathetic, extremely dangerous. And on top of all of that, she was one of many Republicans to vote against additional FEMA funding. Okay, she voted against it. As a matter of fact, the Kamala HQ had a thread, and it was a partial thread dedicated to MAGA Republicans who voted against FEMA funding, and then were somehow complaining about FEMA's response, even though, again, they are the ones who voted effectively to defund FEMA and during hurricane season at a time of enormous consequence. And Paulina was one of those Republicans. Okay, so that sets it up. Then, yesterday, something shocking happened. Something very shocking happened. This MAGA Republican Congresswoman found it within her to actually do the bare damn minimum and briefly dial down the MAGA cultishness and dial up the empathy, compassion, and honesty. Because this is what she said on Twitter. Just got off the phone with President Biden. He is personally overseeing that FEMA does not create problems with the debris removal and is supportive of the $15 billion in FEMA funds only for hurricane victims. If Congress goes into a special session, we can get it passed immediately. This needs to happen. Speaker Johnson, call us back. So that is a freshman MAGA Republican Congresswoman who is so loyal to Donald Trump and who is so close to Donald Trump that during Hurricane Helene, she actually hosted a town hall for Trump and signal boosted his lies to ingratiate herself with him, is now publicly praising the Democratic president of the United States and calling out her own MAGA Republican speaker. This does not deserve applause. She is not a hero for doing this. This is the bare damn minimum. But I think it is worth noting that there is at least one MAGA Republican, at least one, who is having something of an about face. And then what surprised me further was she was interviewed by Benny Johnson, who is a Piers Morgan regular. He sparred with our buddy Destiny. He's a MAGA Republican lunatic. And even he was kind of praiseworthy towards President Biden when he interviewed Representative Luna. And so I'm going to play this clip because, again, this is not, I want to make it very clear. These two are still awful people. And Congress would be better without Paulina Luna. And the internet would probably be better without Benny Johnson's commentary. Okay. They're still very dishonest. They are still cultishly devoted to Donald Trump. But apparently, not literally 100%, perhaps 99.8. We're going to play this clip and then unpack it together.
So, Congresswoman, you spoke moments ago with President Biden.
Yes.
Was he? You've been a bit of a flamethrower.
Yes, most certainly.
Against and you're not a big fan of the president. These times are bigger than politics. So that's really heartwarming to actually see the people who are the leaders of this country coming together to save Americans. I mean, saving America and putting America first should be the one thing we all agree on. It seems to be quite rare these days, however, in the actions of the Democrat Party. And you're saying that President Biden simply called you to offer help, to offer consolation. What else? What else happened in that conversation?
He asked me specifically what Pinellas County needed and what I saw needed to change at the federal level in regards to getting assistance. So I kind of took off my Pinellas County hat, though, and also started advocating for North Carolina and Georgia, because as you know, those areas have also been impacted. And North Carolina, my goodness, I mean, Asheville, recovering from those efforts is going to take, if not months, years. And so, you know, the FEMA, cutting through the bureaucracy and the red tape is incredibly important right now. And so we spoke about that. Also spoke about the money going directly to Americans that have been only impacted by the hurricane. So that is important dialogue to open up and message on. But again, you know, it's interesting because you have I always say, observe the way that people respond in times of crisis. Actions always speak louder than words. So in a parallel, you have, you know, Tampa Bay largely working bipartisan to make sure that Tampa Bay residents are safe and secure. You have DeSantis, who's a Republican governor, that's working to ensure all Floridians are secure. You have Biden understanding that he needs to help from the federal side to work with Governor DeSantis, even though it's a Democrat and Republican.
So think about that. What's ironic here, and of course she won't follow to the next step, is that, yes, President Biden has repeatedly shown that he will work bipartisanly to help secure red states. Florida has had a number of natural disasters since Biden became president. And also that, again, I think even prior to one of the hurricanes, or the first hurricane on Biden's watch, was the collapse of a Florida condo. Like it made news. I think it was in 2021. And Joe Biden went down, toured the area, provided federal relief as well, and toured the area with DeSantis. Biden doesn't threaten to withhold funding from red states. Biden doesn't politicize the funding for red states and red counties the way we know, and this is a fact, and facts don't care about your feelings, Representative, the way that Trump did when he was president. Trump repeatedly threatened to withhold federal assistance from blue cities and blue states. And in the case of California wildfires, we know from previous Trump administration officials, people who work for Trump, that in order for him to provide disaster relief for wildfires, they had to show him polling and voting data proving that at least some of the people affected were Republicans, and therefore it was in his political best interest to do so. So she's too much of a MAGA cultist, and so is Benny Johnson there, to acknowledge Donald Trump's moral inferiority. And he is a morally inferior person. Joe Biden is better than he is. Joe Biden is a better person than he is. Joe Biden could have done what Donald Trump did and really screw over Paulina Luna and her constituents and Governor DeSantis and a red state. But because Joe Biden recognizes a president, Republican or Democrat, has the same obligation to all of American citizens, including those who hate that president, including those who voted against that president, including those who will not vote for that president the next time, you have an obligation to protect all of them. Biden, not Trump, lived up to it. Biden is better than DeSantis in this regard because Biden's enthusiasm for helping Republican senators, Republican counties, and Republican red states is higher than DeSantis's willingness to work with Democrats. So of all of the people Paulina Luna mentioned, Biden is the best, period. Now, she won't go so far as to tell the truth on that, but she is human enough to tell the truth that, Joe Biden actually reached out to her and that she will praise him for that. And she will call Republican Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. Like that shows some humanity, some empathy, some compassion, that as hard as it is for her, she will do the bare minimum for her constituents when push comes to shove, at least in this situation. Again, Congress would be better off without her. Whitney Fox, who's running against her, you should definitely vote for her if you're an eligible voter in Ana Paulina Luna's district. But again, I think this is worth noting that this is, as far as I'm aware, the only MAGA Republican congressperson who is publicly praising the president, acknowledging that additional FEMA funding is required, even though, again, she voted against it, and is actually publicly calling on Mike Johnson to step up and work with the president and Democrats to make it happen. Pretty interesting stuff. And again, even Benny Johnson, in his own roundabout way, even though he snuck in there an attack on the Democrats, acknowledged Biden's cooperation. Will that prevent them from spreading misinformation or disinformation about this in the future or about anything? Will they remember this and say, you know what? We contributed to mis and disinformation about this. I apologize. This isn't the case. FEMA is doing its best. The Biden-Harris administration is doing its best. They are working well with local and state Republicans and Democrats to provide assistance. Will they say that? I don't know. But in the meantime, it should be noted. And quite frankly, Democrats politically need to be drawing attention to this in their debunk efforts. Like, hey, even this crazy person has enough humanity, compassion, empathy to recognize that there are a lot of falsehoods out there, and the Biden-Harris administration is stepping up to help people in need, regardless of how they vote. I think it's worth drawing attention to. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.